Hey guys, it's Madison, and remember how in my last video I mentioned how I don't like challenges like the 40-hour 7-day language challenge because it forces me to study every day. It makes it feel like an obligation. Well, I, against my better judgment, ended up doing the challenge this past week, and so I wanted to talk about it now. So in this video, I'm going to try and make it pretty brief, but I'm going to talk about 4 things. So first of all, why the heck I did this after saying that I don't like doing these things. Number 2, like a breakdown of what I did during the week. Number 3, my thoughts about my experience. And then finally, would I ever do this again? So first of all, why the heck did I decide to do this after talking about why I hate things like this? So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and watch it. I explain my thoughts on why I don't like challenges like this. I still agree with most of the things I said. In general, anything where I feel like I'm obligated to study a language every day, or I feel like I'm being forced by, myself or somebody else to study, it kind of makes studying feel like a drag and like an obligation instead of something that I just want to do for fun. And that's still generally true for me, but I was on Twitter and a lot of people in the language community were talking about how they were doing it this week and it was like some sort of event. And then I got FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I was like, well, if everyone else is doing it, then maybe I ought to do it too. And so I started to want to do it. And I thought, well, maybe since a lot of other people are doing it, when I open Twitter and see everyone else talking about what they're doing, it'll motivate me to also feel like studying. So second of all, let's just go ahead and jump into what exactly I did. So first of all, I did succeed. I did study 40 hours of languages during the week. Study is a big term here. So first I want to talk about what I did not include in studying, and then I'll get into what I did include. First of all, I did not include Korean dramas that I watched with subtitles on. Also, I didn't count any of the time that I spent teaching. And I didn't count that time because, again, it's very beginning level Korean. So even though I'm engaging with the language, I wasn't, it wasn't really active engaging language study, I would say. I spend some time with my friends, and my Korean friends often will speak like 95% Korean to me, but I didn't count the time that I hung out with my friends either, just because like when we were together, we weren't like talking the entire time. So I just counted like a very small portion of time that I actually spent like speaking Korean during that several, the many hours that I was with them. So yeah, those are caveats, things that I did not include. Now, what did I include? I did include the Chinese, like Mandarin Chinese, and then Japanese dramas that I watched with English subtitles, just because those are languages that I'm not as good at, and so I'm a lot more focused when I'm watching on them on what they're saying. Even if I have the English subtitles, I'm still a lot more focused on the language itself, so that was more active, engaged study. I also included, I watched one Korean show without subtitles. Yeah, but anyway, let's look at the day-by-day breakdown really quickly. So on day 1, I did a little bit of Japanese news. I did a little bit of Do Chinese, which is an app where you can read Chinese little stories or little quick things. I did a lot of Integrated Chinese, which is a textbook. What I did with that textbook is I would go through and I would copy the dialogues, and by copying and writing them down in a notebook, I was able to really focus on the actual individual words in the dialogue and making sure that I knew all of them without glancing over any of them if I just read them. And then after I would copy the dialogues, I would skim through the grammar and language notes at the end of the chapters just to get a feel for the sentence constructions without actually writing down or practicing really like that. So that's what I would do with that textbook. And then I did a little bit of Marugoto, which is a website that I found that has some beginner Japanese exercises and videos and stuff. Japanese drama, Japanese version of Boys Over Flowers, and then I also watched some, looks like maybe 1 or 2 episodes of a Chinese drama, and that was that day. And then the next day I did more Integrated Chinese work, and then I also read a little bit in my Korean novel. Then I finished the Japanese drama and then watched some more Chinese dramas. And then day 3, I did more Integrated Chinese textbook work, same thing as the previous 2 days. I found an app called Manabi Reader, which kind of compiles a lot of Japanese reading content They have it separated by level, so you can find some beginner stuff as well. I listened to some Japanese Pod 101 podcasts, and then I did some more reading in that Korean novel, Murukunamu, and then I did some more Chinese dramas. The next day, day 4, again, I did a little bit of integrated Chinese textbook work, watched a little bit of Chinese dramas, but the bulk of the day was spent doing Japanese Pod 101. The reason for that is that I used a different email than the one I used previously to make a Japanese Pod 101 account so that I could get the premium membership for a month for just $1, which is what I did before. And I wanted to have access to all of the content during this week. And so I decided to spend that $1 with the new email and go ahead and have that access again. And then I did a puzzle while I listened to podcasts on there for several hours. So the bulk of that day was Japanese Pod 101. The next day, day 5, did more Chinese textbook stuff, more Japanese Pod 101 stuff, more Korean novel stuff, Murukunamu. Here is where I hung out with my friends for several hours, which is why the total for today, or this day, was also a lot lower, just because I didn't really include a lot of the time that I spent doing stuff that day, like hanging out with my friends. I also watched a short Korean drama that I didn't include, and then I watched some Chinese dramas as well. Day 6, definitely went back up a lot more this day. I watched a lot of dramas, as you can see. On this day, I also did a lot of work in my Chinese textbook, a little bit of Japanese Pod 101, more Korean reading in the novel, and then I watched the Korean show without subtitles. So overall, I got a big chunk that day. And then day 7 as well, the final day of the challenge, I didn't do any Chinese textbook work that day, but I did a couple hours of Japanese Pod 101, more Korean novel reading, and then I spent a lot of time this day doing some like Japanese song stuff. So I would like look up lyrics to a Japanese song and write it on paper and then break it down and investigate the kanji and those sentences and stuff like that. So that's fun for me. So I did that. And then more Chinese dramas, of course. So yeah, that was a little run through of what I did during the week. If you look at like for the whole week overall, I spent almost 15 hours on Japanese. I spent over 20 hours on Chinese, and I spent just under 5 hours for Korean. So overall, that puts me at just over 40 hours for the week. I spent around 5.5 hours with J-dramas and just over 13 hours of Chinese dramas for the week. But that was less than half of the time that I counted for the week. So I was impressed that I managed to do more than half the time of non-drama stuff and still being engaged with languages during the week. So yeah, that's what I did over the week. Now my thoughts. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be to do this challenge. I was expecting it to be kind of a drag, like I mentioned before, like feeling like an obligation. But because I was able to split it between the 3 languages that I'm interested in, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, if I got tired of one thing, there were plenty of other options that I had. Also, like getting the premium membership to Japanese Pod 101 meant that I was able to like listen to those podcasts and be like thinking about the language while I was doing other things that I also have fun with, like doing a puzzle. I'm able to think about the podcast and also like, you know, put together pieces of puzzle at the same time. So since I enjoy doing puzzles, I was motivated to go and work on the puzzle and also listen to the podcast and get several hours in that way. So I was able to do stuff like that to kind of merge language learning with other things that I wanted to do. And would I do this challenge again? I'm definitely more open to the idea than I was before. Like you could see in my last video. I do still feel like something about this kind of challenge does kind of make me feel like I have to do this thing. So even though I was able to have enough motivation to push through and to, you know, it did motivate me to do more than I would have done otherwise. But today is the first day that I'm not in the challenge, and today I'm like, oh, finally a break. So it was nice to have, you know, a break from having to do things. So overall, my personality is still the same. These kind of challenges still do kind of give me a certain sense of stress and pressure, but that also comes with some motivation. So there's good and bad, definitely. Um, Overall, this was a good experience. It motivated me to do a lot in languages that I definitely wouldn't have done otherwise, and I'm happy about that. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say for today. So until next time, annyeong.